Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here. Once again, I was going to do Beavis and Butthead today, but last night I watched a old movie, and it worked perfectly into the schedule because it's timely now. So what I did was I watched the final American Pie movie that I never saw before, Book of Love. It is one of the straight-to-DVD sequels, and I watched it last night, this morning, and I thought it would be good to do a series ranking video. And then what do you know? Sean William Scott just came out, and he said they're talking about doing a part 5. And I looked on IMDb and it said something about American Pie 5, American Vacation. I kind of wish they just called American Pie 5, honestly, because I think American Vacation will sound too much like a vacation movie for the National Lampoon series. I don't know, that might just be me. Anyways, the series, I would say that this is one of the best movie series ever. You could watch all of them and not complain. You could watch every single one in order and only have a couple of times where you're just like, It's really rare for that to happen, and it's really funny because it shouldn't have worked. You know, this series, you got 4 sequels, and then you got 5 straight-to-DVD movies. Somehow they are all good. At the very least, just good. I would say that they're some of the more important movies, too, the original trilogy. They're very important movies in film history for that era, the 2000s to 2012, when the 4th one came out. You know, they're very timely and very, very nostalgic, and, you know, it's just too bad that they don't make comedies anymore. You know, now you gotta watch, like, other genre movies to have a little bit of comedy in them. Like, oh, look, Top Gun Maverick. There's a couple of jokes here and there, they're funny. That's where you get your comedy nowadays. You don't even get your comedy in comedy movies. Or like, oh, that movie's so bad, it's funny. Oh, that's really funny. That's where people get their comedy from nowadays. They don't even get real comedies. And so it felt so refreshing last night to watch American Pie Book of Love. It felt so good, and it felt like, wow, I just wish they'd make movies like this now. I wish that every movie was like Book of Love. Because it was so funny, it was so free. You know, it didn't feel like there were any agendas. It didn't feel like anything was forced. It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. Anyways, the series has probably the weakest entry, number 9, is a movie that I don't think is terrible. You know, a lot of people do think it is pretty bad, and, you know, I don't blame them. I just think it's kind of meh. It was a pandemic movie. There was nothing to review in the pandemic, basically. Like, I had to watch like a million old movies to make up for the lack of new movies. But American Pie Girls Rules is number 9. This movie, it has some good jokes in it. Like, I was not mad about the concept of having a female American Pie. I thought I would love to see that. I think that sounds like it would be really funny. It sounds like it would be really good, and I'd love to see that just as much as I'd love to see, like, another entry into the series. And Girls Rules was really, really just meh in terms of the jokes were kind of few and far between that were funny. There were some really unlikable characters, especially there's this whole subplot in the movie where one of the girls is like a psycho stalker, insane girl, and her boyfriend breaks up with her because she's crazy. And then the whole arc of the movie and their characters is that he should have just stayed in line and let her abuse him and let her be a psychotic biatch. And so at the end of the movie, he's the one who says sorry, gets back together with her. I don't think that they meant it in that way, though. I just think that, these are the main characters, so they all had to get laid. And, yeah. There's some also really weird jokes with, like, modern devices. Like, there's this one, like, this weird, like, blowjob instrument that you put in your mouth when you're giving one, and they had like all these jokes with that, and that was really weird. Female Stifler was also really weird because it felt like the actress did a really good job. I mean, she was definitely one of the better actors in the movie, but the character was so not Stifler. And the character was so tame. The whole movie was tame. It was very, very play it safe. It could have almost been a PG movie, honestly. Like, there really wasn't anything bad in it. The main girl was pretty good, too. I thought she was okay. The biggest problem with the movie, the reason why it's in last place, is because of one big, gaping problem. This movie is the only movie in the American Pie series to not have nudity. I think that is that's pretty bad. I mean, it's an American Pie movie. For fuck's sakes, like, I know that there's this agenda now where nobody can get naked in a movie anymore because it's too hard. We can't do that anymore. We don't do that. We can show all this brutal violence and show people getting their heads chopped off and getting raped with a fucking, a sledgehammer. We can show people, like, getting run over by cars and splattering blood everywhere, but we cannot show people in their most natural form when they're naked. No, that's too far. We can't do that anymore. We've evolved past that, and that's this movie. It's like, where's the fucking nudity? Where is it? They have one shot in the movie. It's probably one of the most awkward shots of the entire series, where the main girl, she is trying to, I can't remember if she's trying to get into her boyfriend's place or she's trying to sneak back into her home. But she gets stuck on the gate and, like, her dress flies over and you can kind of see her rear end, but she's still not naked. And so it's like, what is this? Like, it was so awkward because it just felt so forced and so like, oh, wow, this is your one shot. This is the one, like, oh, good job. Clap, clap, clap. Not. And so let me explain further, like, some of the more disastrous elements of the movie. Oh yeah, and Greg from Diary of a Wimpy Kid is in it, all grown up, and that was really funny to see too. I mean, he really fit into the movie. He did a good job. Let's listen to this, guys. The producers of the movie wanted male nudity in the movie. The director even included some male nudity in one of the scenes, although it was a prosthetic, but it was ultimately deleted out of the final cut. This makes it the only American Pie movie to not have any nudity at all, including male nudity. It's also the first American Pie movie to not have Eugene Levy, which is that's like, to me, that is a huge red flag. If the American Pie movie doesn't have him, it's like, I wouldn't even count that. It's also the first American Pie movie not to have an unrated version. It's also the first and only American Pie movie to not have any nudity, and this is from IMDb, and it says, which is odd because the franchise is known for its raunchiness and sexiness, and it's like, yeah, but there's this agenda now where, violence is okay, but nudity isn't. And now listen to this hilarious behind-the-scenes explanation for why this movie's a piece of trash. Well, mediocre trash. So, let's see. They filmed some pretty raunchy scenes, but Netflix ordered them to cut them out. The director said that most of the dirtiest parts were created by the female writers. They really made me blush. I can be kind of gross sometimes myself, but they had a lot of really, really raunchy ideas that couldn't be in the movie. Like, guys, that is really, really bad. Like, that is, to me, that is like a stamp on the paper of shittiness. The female writers, this movie is supposed to be from the female perspective. It's supposed to be the female American Pie. Let's have the girls as the main characters and make a bunch of really funny, raunchy jokes, just like all the other movies. Let's treat them just the way that, they got treated in the other movies. But no, Netflix would not let them. Netflix said, you are not allowed to make dirty jokes. You are not allowed to show people in their human form. But you're allowed to do it if they're children, though, like in Cuties. Remember that movie? That movie had more inappropriate stuff than this movie ever did. And that was with children. That was pretty bad, right? So this movie, as I said, it is a disaster, but it's just meh. I could tell that they were playing it safe and that it was really they could have gone a lot farther. And it's too bad because I guess they wanted to. But Netflix said, fuck you. Number 8 is American Pie Beta House. Every time I watch this movie, I feel dirty and I feel guilty because it's just such a trashy movie in the series. It's definitely the trashiest. It's all about these two fraternities having a feud with each other. You have the Stifler fraternity, which was a great idea, by the way. And then you have the Nerds fraternity. Now, the problem is that this movie basically just... it just rips off all these other college movies, like Animal House, Revenge of the Nerds, which I haven't seen. I know that's a high school movie. It rips off Apocalypse Now. I mean, not Apocalypse Now, The Deer Hunter. At one point, that was really weird. And the worst thing, though, is that the whole Naked Mile movie was building up to the main guy getting with his girlfriend. And in this movie, at the very beginning, she's written out of the movie, and they say that, oh, she left him, and then she got with the other guy instead. I thought that was really shitty. I really hate that. I thought that was weak. There are a lot of funny jokes in this movie, though. There's lots of great nudity. I did think that the love interest was better. Like, she is definitely the best love interest for this Eric character. His name is Eric Stifler. And he's known as, like, the nice guy Stifler, which is kind of funny because the Stifler family is notoriously really out there. But he is the normal one in the family. And, of course, one of his cousins is the leader of the fraternity of Stiflers. And this movie just gets really cartoony at a point because they have this whole fraternity Olympics competition with the nerd fraternity. And it's just really, really cartoony. And yeah, it gets really cartoony, and it's okay though. Like, I could watch it again, although I will feel guilty right after watching it. As I said, number 7 is American Pie: The Naked Mile. This is the movie that came before Beta House. I thought that it was pretty funny. It was pretty a good story idea of them going to run this naked mile or something, and they go to the college and meet the cousin Stifler, and then the whole thing's like kind of like a road trip movie. At some point there's like a road trip sequence that's really funny. Eric Stifler's a really likable character, and in fact, one of the funniest things is that the guy playing Eric Stifler is the guy from Cuckoo Clock of Doom, the Goosebumps episode. And I thought that it was hilarious that he grew up to be in this in this American Pie movie series. That's really funny. But I really didn't like the love interest, the girlfriend, the whole movie. It's building up to them sleeping together as usual. And she's just kind of boring. And at one point, he's at this college, and they introduce this new love interest, and she's a lot better than his girlfriend at home. And it just, I don't know. Especially after Beta House, where they just made her completely, irrelevant. It just kind of feels like, But there's good nudity, though, as I said. Like, all the other movies in the series almost have nudity, and it's just fine. But except for Girls' Rules, the Netflix one. Which is weird, because Netflix should be able to have whatever they want. Number 6 is American Reunion. This movie, it was really, really exciting to see this movie come out in theaters. I didn't see it in theaters because I didn't want to see it with Safi. Obviously. I watched it like online somewhere. And it wasn't as good as I expected it to be based on the really funny trailers. There's a really funny joke about Twilight, and there's a funny joke where Stifler takes a you-know-what inside these jackasses' beer cooler, and, there's lots of really funny jokes in this movie. The problem is that there's basically no female nudity in this movie at all, which is also a big red flag. As well, the main story is very cliche, and it's all about how Jim, the normal one, he's having problems with Michelle, and they just never get to, have time to have sex, and so he gets tempted with this teenage girl, and then he has to, push her away at the end of the movie, and it's just such a cliche and stupid plot, and really, really just like mediocre, and not what makes a good American Pie movie. American Pie movies are built around the comedy. They're built around, let's make this really, really funny. But in this movie, it seems like the crappy cliche story is built around the comedy. So it's like a switcheroo where, you have this crappy story that you start off with, and then you build around that this comedy that's really, really good, and, would have been a lot better with a better story in between. And then, of course, I can't remember if Kevin gets back together with Tara Reid or not, but that was something that was really problematic with the movie for me, because, they really should have been together for the whole series. And I really didn't like that thing where they broke up, and then in this movie, Kevin is like a bitch-slapped house husband, and he's just like really weak, and it just feels like, why doesn't he get back together with Tara Reid? Like, he's not actually married, to this character that he's married to. It's fictional. It's a movie. Have them get divorced and have them get back together with Tara Reid. Number 5 is American Pie Band Camp. This movie I'm a little bit biased towards because I knew someone who looked exactly like the love interest in this movie, and so I would watch it a lot for that reason, and and it made for a very good a good viewing experience, and 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 the story is really good. It's all about another Stifler in the family. And what I liked about this movie was that they really portrayed Stifler like how he would be perceived in real life, which is he's a bully. He's like a bully character, but, he's funny and he gets girls, and so, he's likable to his little group of friends. But the guy in American Pie Band Camp, he is so... He is very, very obnoxious. But it's on purpose, and throughout the movie he grows, he changes, he has an arc, and by the end of the movie, he's not a jackass anymore, and he's got the girl and everything. And so what happens is he goes to band camp, he is sentenced to band camp by the principal, who is played by I can't remember, what was his name? I can't remember, but it was the red-haired guy, the guy who said that he's Sherman. Sherman is the principal of East Great Falls School, and he sentences this guy to go to band camp. And it's all about him at this band camp screwing around. He gets this idea to put a tape in the girl's shower, which is pretty hilarious because, I'm just surprised that this movie hasn't been, complained about by some weak little bitch on the internet or something. Maybe they have on IMDb. I don't know. But I really love this movie. It's really, really funny. I could watch it again right now. Number 4, you guys are going to be shocked. Number 4 is American Pie, The Book of Love, the one that I just watched. I think this movie was so good, I am surprised that people did not like it. I'm surprised that it pretty much has some of the lowest ratings of the series. I think that this is a fantastic comedy. Fantastic. I laughed almost through the entire movie. I thought that the characters were good. I thought the story was good. The love interests were all good. The ending was really good. This was almost a perfect movie for me. And that's saying something. It was kind of awkward at first, though, because the main guy in this is actually the kid from Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, which is my favorite movie in that series. And it's pretty funny because in that movie at the beginning, he's joking about how he needs peanut butter. He's got to have this peanut butter and jelly sandwich at school, and Dad didn't get any at the grocery store, and so he puts a can of chicken Chinese chow mein in his lunch bag instead. And it's so funny because at the beginning of this American Pie movie, this same guy, all grown up, he starts having sex with a peanut butter and jelly. And then his dog starts licking his you-know-what. It is just the funniest thing. And his brother records him, and there's this recurring joke in the movie where he keeps on getting recorded every single time he has an embarrassing moment. It is amazing. It is perfect. And then you got Eugene Levy in the movie again, which is also a sign that it's a master movie. And by the way, in the band camp one, he was in charge of the band camp, which was another reason why that was a great movie. And another person in this movie is Brandon Hardesty, and he plays the kind of fat friend character, for lack of a better description. Well, I mean, that's what he is. He's just the fat friend. He doesn't really have any other personality traits except for he has a really active imagination, and he has a lot of these funny hallucination sequences where he's fantasizing about people and things, and it gets really, really insanely over the top. And if you guys don't know who he is, he was this really good YouTuber back in the day. He used to make these reenactment videos where he would spoof and do scenes from movies, and like he would play all the characters, and he was amazing. He was one of the best. I would say he is one of the top 5 YouTubers of all time, and he was so funny. He was so creative. And from doing those YouTube videos, he was cast in several movies. He was in this other movie that I watched to support him years ago called Bart Got a Room, which also had William H. Macy. That was another really good comedy. But he was in this movie, and then another thing I love about this movie, I love this movie. I would give it a 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5, A+. Like, I was shocked at how good this movie was and how people pretend that it's a bad movie. Like, I don't know why. I thought it was at first, but then I changed my mind. I completely flip-flopped watching it and just being like, this is hilarious. Another good thing, though, is that Stifler is once again portrayed as the bully. The Stifler in this movie, he is extremely, extremely unlikable. At one point, he's trying to sleep with the main guy's love interest. He's really, really nasty. And I loved it because it was like, instead of, in the original series, Stifler is Stifler. The series is told from the perspective of these group of friends, these friends, and they're friends with him. So, obviously he's going to look better than he does in this movie, where he's like the worst one. He's this guy who they kind of see sometimes, but he's a huge jackass, and so he has this really interesting thing happen, though, where he completely gets humiliated. He gets thrown out in the snow, naked, and then he gets raped by a moose, and a CGI moose. And it's so funny because this movie, it did a much better job of like making a more realistic American Pie and making a more modern American Pie than the Girls' Rules one, where they didn't have any nudity at all anywhere. But yeah, I really love this movie. It's so good. I'd like to just watch it again right now. Number 3 is The First American Pie. For starters, I'd just like to quickly mention I did meet Nadia from American Pie. It was at the second convention that I ever went to, which was Days of the Dead Chicago 2015 or 2016. And I should have just talked to her at her table because, then I could have done a video about meeting her and everything. But instead, I just got a professional photo with her, which was kind of a waste of time, honestly. But I just wanted to tell you guys that, because I never made a video about meeting with her and everything. So the original American Pie, this movie could have just been a Porky's ripoff. there's a lot of comedies that came out after Porky's, and they were just Porky's rip-offs. They were just like, oh, let's do Porky's so we can make money too. This movie, though, it was very creative. It was very clever. The initial idea, just the idea alone. In this movie, a guy has sex with an apple pie. That idea alone is just full of potential. Making a movie and discovering why is this guy doing that? What other things are happening in the movie? It is just a perfect comedy to me. I really love this movie. I think it's a classic. It has so many good jokes in it. It has so many, and these joke sequences, they last about 20 minutes apiece. And then you'll have this kind of typical high school story stuff and romance stuff. And there are a couple of cliche parts, like the whole thing with the lacrosse guy. He's on the choir, and then he has to leave the lacrosse game to go run to the choir so that he can sing with them. There's stuff like that just feels like, but still, this is a really solid movie. I would say my favorite part is the whole stuff with Finch, aka Shitbreak. I used to not go to the bathroom in school either. I said, I am going to hold this in all day long and then go home and do it there. I am not going to the bathroom at school. And, at my school, we were not allowed to have free periods where you could go home or leave campus. This was a different school, though, where you could do that. And so I really love that whole joke with the laxatives and everything. I will say, too, that Stifler, he's portrayed more neutrally in this movie as well. Really in the sequels, the reason why he is portrayed so likably is because fans really liked him and thought he was funny. And so it's not like the people who made these movies, they approved of Stifler, they thought he was a great guy. He just had to become that great guy to please the fans. He was the fan favorite, and that's what happens a lot of the times in movie series and TV series, as you'll get a fan favorite character like Spike. I mean, just think about Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He was a killer. He was evil as hell. He was not somebody that you would like at all in real life. And yet, by the end of that series, he becomes like a hero. And he's the love interest to the main character. So sometimes it just works out that way. Number 2 is American Pie 2. To me, this movie, it really flip-flops with part 1 because of one simple mistake. This movie's so funny and it's so perfect and so good. That whole sequence with the lesbians where the guys are in the closet and then they have to kiss each other so that the lesbians will do stuff, and they're on the walkie-talkies. Just incredible comedy. But then it gets to the end. It gets to the final last 10 minutes. And to me, the biggest mistake of the series happens. So Nadia is in America. She wants to be with Jim. And Jim chooses Michelle instead. Because he's gotten to know her more throughout the movie. And it's God, this is so shitty. Just because he got to know her more, he could have gotten to know Nadia more. He could have focused on, other things besides how good he would be at having sex with Nadia. He could have done Nadia a lot better of a thing by, just not caring about, like, oh, because that was the whole movie. It was like, oh, how is Jim gonna impress Nadia? How is Jim gonna be with Nadia? And then he's like, oh, never mind. It's like, that's fucking shitty. I just hate that. But everything else about this movie I love. Number one, if you guys do process of elimination, is American Wedding. To me, this is the funniest one in the whole series. It's the one that I've rewatched the most out of all of them. And the reason why is because this movie is a Stifler movie. It is a totally 100% Stifler picture. It is all about how Stifler is in charge of helping Jim with his wedding, and I think he's even the best man, and he's got to throw the bachelor party, and it is just perfect. It is utterly perfect. Stifler gets a love interest. He has an arc in this movie where he changes too, and I just thought, this is perfect. This movie is definitely the best one in the series. And to end it all, I would have to say, you know, it's really funny because after watching this series, you know, Stifler kind of defined my personality, because, you know, Stifler was very confident, he was very funny, and so I tried to model myself after Stifler, and he was a great role model. In particular, being a teenager, he was a great person to look up to with the choices that he made in these movies. And just his personality in general. And in particular, I got his haircut all the time. You know, I would take his picture to this haircutting place that I don't go to anymore. And I would take his picture and I would say, I want to look like Stifler. And then I went to school and there was this other guy. And everyone really loved the haircut too. Like, everyone always said something about the hair and how, like, wow, it really looks good. Oh, wow, American Pie Stifler, that's what it looks like. And, you know, everyone loved the haircut. And there was this one guy, and he actually got his haircut just like Stifler's, all because I did it. And so it was like the only time in the history of school where I, like, set some sort of a fashion trend where people wanted to get their hair cut like Stifler from American Pie movies. And I just thought that was really cool. You know, Stifler's character, he really transformed into someone who you could be proud to say, like, yeah, that is one of the greatest movie characters of all time. So where do I think they should go next with the series? Personally, I pitched this movie on Facebook. I would like to see a No Way Home style movie where all the Stiflers from these movies, so you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All the 6 Stiflers from this movie series get together for a Stifler family reunion. I mean, come on, it's right there. The idea is right there. Do it. You can see all these love interests. So, like, the love interest from Bandcamp, she would be with that Stifler. The love interest from the Stifler from Book of Love, he would be with her. I mean, she would be with him. The British girl, British girl, yeah. They could all meet together. It would be really, really funny. Maybe they'd all be in competition with each other for some reason. You know, who knows? But by now, I just can't believe, honestly, that they haven't done that. You know, it seems like it's right there in front of you. You know, you failed with the girls' American Pie version. Now it's time for you to, you know, do this other good idea with the Stifler family reunion. So anyways, please like this video, comment, tell me how you would rank the series, and then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest videos or reviews. Goodbye everybody, see you soon.